Yeah, hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. All right, good evening, everyone. I welcome you to this day two webinar series uh, for the ATR, Arthurite, and AWS Gen AI event 2025. I believe if you are with us, we had the day one series yesterday, which we had Mr. Paul and Mr. Sharifuddin, who talked about artificial intelligence. And today, we are having another topic with an insightful session. We are having an insightful session where we have our speaker, Mr. Abdurazak Naibi, on this topic, SageMaker for business from prototype to production. Please, if you are with us, like, kindly give out your emojis on the comment section. Let's have your emojis. Let's have your emojis. All right. While we are waiting for other people to join the session, I would like us to start this session as we've scheduled 6 p.m. I believe anyone who is willing to join should be joining now, and we can't wait to have this right. So we can't wait to have Mr. Abdulrazak Noibi to give his lecture on this insightful topic. And looking at this topic, SageMaker for business. Looking at the way artificial intelligence has been evolving in time, even moving from generative AI to agentic AI to some other AI, models that have been coming up on God, and how a lot of businesses have been, trying to, deploy them for their various. Sorry, one moment. Can anyone still hear me, Mr. Brazil? Can you confirm you can hear me, please? Hello, Mr. Brazil. Are you there?
I can hear you.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much for that. I had a bit of network issue. So, I was giving an overview. Okay, right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sharif. So I was giving an overview on the topic, talking about SageMaker for business from prototype to production. As we all know, that an important part of AI is SageMaker when we are, looking at AWS, and Amazon SageMaker is a managed service of AWS that actually focus on machine learning, help businesses to build, train machine learning models without even them managing their infrastructure manually, right? So this topic is really very important for businesses, and as you all know, that Arthurite integrated as an AWS partner, we give cloud solutions, most especially artificial intelligence solutions, to businesses to help them solve real world problem. You know, and an important tool or service that we do use for this is Amazon SageMaker, right? And I can't even wait to get some insight from our guest speaker who will be giving us insight on the topic, SageMaker for business from prototype to production. Before I continue, I would like to introduce myself once again. I'm Abolaji Abdurrahman. I'm a solution engineer at Arthurite Integrated, and I have with me here Mr. Abdulrazak Noibi, who is also a clerk captain for from University of Unilag, right? So I would like to proceed to invite Mr. Abdulrazak Noibi to the stage to give his presentation on this topic. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Bolaji, please can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Thank
loud
you.
and clear.
Please can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Congrats.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bolaji, for that wonderful introduction. And I mean, if that was really amazing. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks to Arthurite. My apologies. I'm unable to pronounce properly. And then with AWS Gen AI 2025. Thank you for having me today. Um, like you said, my name is Noibi Abdulzak, and I'm also the cloud captain of University of Lagos. Today, we're going to be looking into Amazon SageMaker. Um, but before we kind of go deeper into this, I want to be sure that everyone is with me. Today is going to be an insightful session. You're going to really learn a lot. Um, I know some of us that are here are kind of hearing this for the first time. So you don't have to, don't worry. There are a lot of services that AWS actually offered. But yeah, so today, just about Amazon's SageMaker and powering your production model, machine learning from maybe from your local to production, things like that. Um, so the word sage, right? I'm going to start from there. When you talk about sage, use the sage, sage, they're the maker. Some of these word, they are actually properly coined. They're not just like just there. They all have a meaning. And when you look for a sage, sage is more like a person that's full of wisdom. Like it can do a lot of things. And then in the world of fiction, I can say probably a wizard, someone that is really really good, and like it can do amazing things magically, that kind of stuff. And then a maker, someone that is creative that builds stuff. So when you put all these things together, you started having a bit of idea of what SageMaker actually is. Um, you can go to the next session. So yeah, so what exactly? Um, but I want us to have this kind of scenario in our head, right, before we kind of move forward. I know I've not really like deep dive into what this SageMaker is, but before I actually like give that meaning, I want us to kind of uh, I want us to work together to have something in mind, capture something in your mind, and it's kind of give you more clarity. So I want you to kind of picture this, right? So you have some team, you have your team, and you built a fantastic. Let's say you built um, a fraud detection model, and this model really really performed beautifully. Like when you are testing, when you are building locally, like it was when you test the model, it was working as expected. Like you guys love it, and you're ready to deploy, you're ready to like move from local, that's from testing, to production. And when you deploy it now, you started having let's say thousands or millions of transactions, like daily. Like you're seeing a lot of transactions that's happening daily, and at the point then your latency starts spiking. We'll be using some concept of words. If you don't understand, you can put it on the chat, on the comment section, so we can explain some of these things. So there'll be latency spike, and then also cost starts skyrocketing. Then you also have your global data production, GDP production, GDPR or HIPAA, it started coming on your neck because of some of these things. It's not meeting compliance and all of that. So yeah, if we put all these things together, from now that this we've put this thing that I just said into your mind, you know that there's already a problem, right? If you get me properly, you see that there's already a problem. Honestly, building a model on a local machine can be easy, but production, that's where the real work is, right? So, what exactly is Amazon SageMaker? So, what exactly is this? In this case, in our scenario, like this scenario that I just used in this case right now, is a game changer, right, for machine learning. It is fully managed platform that simplify building, like when you have your data that you want to build, all right, and then that same data that you want to train, and then you want to deploy all this data that you want to deploy. These are your ML models, and then it makes them scalable and production ready. But getting that production ready, that is where the major work is. Like it's crazy, like it's complex, right? To do all this whole process, right? So I'm going to walk you through how we can productionize our ML models, right? So how we can position our ML models, making them scalable to production, right? And with practical tips and all of that. Today is we're not going to do practical session actually. It's going to be more of theory. Maybe other times I don't know, but today is going to be more of theory. But yeah, I'm just going to like touch base some of this area. Um, I don't know if anybody have been in that situation before. Maybe you have deployed a model. If you are on the comments, if you have experience with deploying model, and then you've experienced this kind of thing where the difficulty of deploying your model, can you like maybe say something in the comment section? Let me hear from you, right? Um, it's really challenging. I think I remember at the point where you when I want to kind of deploy a model, um, you know, looking at the past of how we actually do it. So trying to think about the way we do it before, because the way I put things together, the way I think is when you introduce a new service to me, I'm thinking about the solution that it's trying to solve. So what exactly SageMaker is trying to solve, and why exactly do we need it? And then that means that you also have to consider your traditional method of doing things, like how it's been deployed before. So we'll look into that. We can move on to the next slide. So we'll look into that, all right? So if you look at traditional way of doing things, your model, you want to deploy a model, there are a lot of things that you have to consider, right? You have to start thinking about the servers. After you have built locally your machine, you have to like start thinking about the server that you want to make use of. Um, then it could be a virtual machine, right? It could be your data center. It depends on how you want to run it. Then there are also dependencies. Especially these dependencies, one crazy solves that you deal a lot. We use kind of Python, Python, and Python is crazy. By the time you want to start installing, some of these dependencies, some of these packages on your server, you know that it's crazy and it's not easy to manage some of these VMs. And apart from that, you also have your data, the data that you want to, use in your production, or you want your customer to consume. So there's a lot that is going to go in from data preparation, data cleaning, data, deployments, things like that. And it actually require like expertise. So definitely at the point you have to hire, DevOps engineers that are going to really help to do this, right? Because there's a lot of missing pieces that is going on. Like there's a lot of missing pieces. It's just like you trying to assemble a car, right? So a car has many components, and the same that is going on here. So there's a lot of components. You have your Jupyter where you write your notebooks, you write your scripts, right? And then also there's scalability bottlenecks, like that. How can you scale your model? How can you scale it? And even after you deploy, you need monitoring. You need a way to monitor your model, how they're actually behaving. Are they actually like behaving well? Are they actually meeting the user need? So you want to see the server compute resources usage. You want to know what's going on, right? So how do you get to know these things? So that's where monitoring comes in. And now imagine that you want to do all these pieces together. So that means you have to start looking for maybe Splunk. You want to start looking for all these monitoring tools or Grafana, whatever, and trying to like put all these things together. Then you have to set up your CI/CD pipelines, just to ensure that all these things are working end to end. So if to do this, you need really expertise to get some of these things done. And it's insane. This whole process, it's insane, right? And this is the traditional method of doing it. So that's why now that you understand this traditional ML, uh, now that you understand this traditional ML pain points, now I want to like now understand where SageMaker is now coming in, what is now trying to solve, right? Can you move on to the next slide, please? All right. So, so what exactly is it trying to solve? So, what exactly is trying to solve now? So, what is trying to solve is that it wants to make our production like easier, right? And the way I see SageMaker is a tool on its own. Like, on AWS, there's a lot of services that we have, like your S3 bucket. S3 bucket is vast as well. SageMaker is another example, and SageMaker is really crazy. Like it's kind of assemble all these things that you need, right? Like your like I said earlier, your CI/CD, your data ingestion, your data applying, applying, your data training, your ML trainings, and all of that. This all stuffs. So this SageMakers, your notebook as well, where you write your scripts, your notebook. So there's a way SageMaker have everything in one place. So so Amazon SageMaker ensure that this UI, it contains everything that you need to actually build a model, right? Um, from testing to what to deployment. So it becomes very, very, very easy. It's become very easy. And one of the challenges, I think we're talking about the challenges that we have here, is the latency. One of the things that it actually solve is your latency. Like it solve latency issue. When you have to be concerned about the time, right, that your pipelines uh, are being gotten from the users. Like how long does it take them to kind of get a particular model? Does it really take time? Sometimes when your model takes time, that's where your latency. So do you have a low latency or do you have a high latency? In this case, SageMaker ensure that we have a very low latency. And other things is your compliance. So if you are using SageMaker, it's ensure that you have it's compliant with GDPR and your HIPAA, because these are regulatory bodies. They ensure that your models actually meet the requirements so that you don't expose what we call the PI data, right? Personal identifiable identification. I can't remember vividly, but something like that, PI. So they ensure that you meet your compliance, and also even the cost, right? Imagine if you are imagining your server yourself, there's a lot of things that you would put in place, like a lot of things. But when it comes to SageMaker, it's also reduced the cost, because now you are not the one that is managing the server anymore. It's not a managed service, right? It's managed, and it becomes so easy. And then you pay for only what you use, that kind of thing. Uh, so yep. Let me make a solution. So let's look at this chart now. If you look at this chart here, I want us to kind of have a understanding of how SageMaker is solving this problem, and also look at the traditional method versus the SageMaker setup time, and to compare both of them. So the solution, I don't know if you can increase the size. Is it possible so you can see it properly? Is it possible to increase the chart? Mr. Bolaji, is it possible? Can you hear me, Mr. Bolaji? Oh, it's not possible. Okay, let me try from my end. I don't know if they can see it. Can you ask the people if they can see it?
Yes. Is there anyone seeing that graph sheet? Can you let us know in this comment if you can see it, please? Hello. I believe they can see it. Let's just go ahead,
They,
please.
they can see it, right? Okay, so let's move on. So now, if you look at the production machine learning, that's the ML pipeline. So how does it start? We have the model, we have the data. Oh, okay, cool. and we have the code. Now, the first thing that we want to do is to ingest our data and also validate it, right? So you can your data can be in different formats. You can be in, maybe in CSV, it can be raw data, it could be anything. You know what I mean? It can be unstructured data. So whatever your data is, one way or the other, you want to validate that data. You want to make sure that that data is validated. And for us to validate it, we can write some kind of logic, like some code, to help us like validate that data. So that's the first thing that is going to do. And then after it's does that, it's process it. We After we know that we now have our data, right, which is what it has already been validated. So it generates an output data, right? So which means a data that's been validated, a validated output data. So that data is what we are now going to use for our feature engineering. And this is where the pre-processing comes into place. So what exactly is the purpose of the pre-processing? What exactly does it do? So what it does basically is to transform that data, right? So we transform whatever that data is into suitable data for modeling. So what exactly do we want to model, right? So we will now transform that data. It could be into different features, like how do you want to transform your data? So that's what that part is doing. And also there are logic as well, of course, definitely, that will help us to create those features and then use it to train and evaluate our data. So once this is done, we carry that data as well, which is going to be our output, and then move into retraining and building. So we're going to like retrain that data and then we build that data as well. So what's the purpose of retraining and building? It's for us to develop, right, and refines the ML model. So as what is doing at that particular moment is that whatever what we have in our training is going to like evaluate that logic with our offline features and then build and retrain the model. And in this case, you will see the model feedback loop at the top, right? I don't know if you can see that particular line on the retraining model to the monitoring model, and there's what we call the feedback. So the model feedback allow us to do what we call continuous improvement on our model, right? So I know this space can be a little bit tricky. There's what we call the CD pipeline, and which is continuous delivery. We have continuous integration and continuous deliveries slash continuous deployment. So in our case, we are doing a continuous deployment here, and all these are being done automatically. It depends on how we want to like put this into perspective. Maybe in production, you may not want to like do it automatically because you may want to have a gated person, right? Yes, a gated person, just to ensure that okay, whatever is going at the end of the day is secured. And you can at this stage we can have different environments. We can have our dev environments, we can have our test environments, we can have pre-prod, we can have production and things like that. And maybe for all these other lower environments, we can have automated deployments in that case. So our model cannot be automatic, right? So any changes that is happening, we can get it from the feedback loop. All right. So here we have our virtual model, and then we now have our deployments, right? You can see the deployments and saving. So we need to now deploy this model for the real world, right? That's our user. That's that part. So whatever you build, whatever model you build, you want people to make use of it, right? So we want it's now live, so people can go there and make use of it, right? So that's where deployment is coming from, and then after it deploys the stream model and use online features for interference log to generate predictions or whatever decisions that it wants to make. And then we now have our inference data. And then after we have that, so this inference data, we now use this in our monitoring. So there can be a lot of things that maybe is going on under the hood. How do you want to know what's going on with your data? How are users interacting with this data? Are there challenges? Are there issues? So with monitoring, we can easily trace, we can actually collect some of these logs, we can easily collect some of this feedback from users. And then once this is done, we can easily again go back to the first stage. We validate, we retrain again. We retrain the model, and then deploy. And that's where you can see the CD pipeline that is actually going on. So it's ensure that there's continuous flow of deployment, right? Which is a way, this is a modern way, or should I say agile process of building, of deploying an application, or deploying our model. All right. Um, yeah. So if you look at the, is there any question so far before we go ahead? Any question? Is there any question so far?
Yeah, to the audience, if you have any question, kindly put it in in the chat. You can definitely read it out while he finishes his slide. So, Mr. Bezek, I think you can go ahead now.
All right. So if you look at the second chart at the right, we have the traditional ML and also the SageMaker setup time. So yeah, what it's just kind of doing is comparing the time it takes to prepare your data, to train your data, the deployment, and also the monitoring, the time that it takes. So if you look at your left hand side, you have your time, and also we have different way of uh, training your data. So for data preparation, you can see for if you compare both of them, you can see that the SageMaker is faster to prepare your data. It's very, very fast and easy to use. Then if you look at it to train your data as well, uh, the SageMaker is faster. Look at the deployments. This is where the actual work is. To me, deployment is one crazy stuff. You can build stuff on your local machine, you can build stuff to test, but can you actually like uh build stores for people to use? By the time you get there, you know that that's where the real work is, because you now have numbers of people that are using it, and then you be under pressure. Imagine you are managing this yourself. It's going to be crazy. So look at the time that it takes for you to deploy your model, and then compare it to when you do this by yourself. Look at the traditional method of uh, you know deploying the model. Like it's like 4x of it, which is insane, right? And this also will ensure that the cost is reduced drastically. When you look at your monitoring as well, the same thing with your monitoring. It's easy for you to know what's going on with your model, can easily get feedback and know what's going on and all of that. Um, Okay, then we also have optimization, right? With SageMaker, it's optimized, it's serverless. You don't have to worry about managing servers, things like that. You don't have to worry about installing dependencies. You don't have to worry about, okay, do I need to install a particular package, things like that. Those things are already taken care of. Um, if you have actually, like, let's say, updates or upgrade an OS, a VM OS before, on a production server, you will know what I'm talking about. You know that it's insane. And sometimes you're because there can be downtime, which you don't want to happen, which does not make sense. It can be downtime and all of that. But in this case, now it's serverless. You don't have to worry about who is managing what, right? Because Amazon is responsible for doing that, and they ensure that the it's working as expected. Then we also have the cost, right? The cost is like the cost, like I said, it's they are going to charge you based on what you use. You won't be charged for what you don't use at all. All right, because imagine that you have your server that you're managing by yourself. That's when you see cost, you run away. You know that it's not easy. In 2 days or 3 days, you'll be seeing the costs. Or there's sometimes what about you want to scale? Maybe the compute you are using is kind of small before, because it didn't put this into consideration. Number of users, the latency, the compute resources, and all of that. You didn't put them into considerations. By the time you have a spike, you will now know that will not be beans, right? So you have to start doing it manually yourself. You have to know it does not make sense. So that's why SageMaker solutions is one of the best way to deploy a model as fast as possible, even to your end users. And as a business owner, SageMaker is really, really like much better in terms of you know, uh, deploying your model to the real world. Trust me. Can you move on to the next? Do you have? I think we should have other slide. Okay. All right, so this is talking about the best practices for success. All right, so we have data scientists, and then we have DevOps, and then we have the businesses. So one thing I always tell people is that as a business person, your concern is it's not about the application. Your concern is how your business is going to make money. That should be your focus. And the time that you're now like the time that you're supposed to be focusing on your business, you're now using that to update or work on the model itself or trying to work on the server, then you are wasting time. It does not make sense. So that's where best practice is have DevOps engineers that's going to help you with the CI/CD pipelines, right? So they ensure that there is continuous integration and there's a continuous deployment or delivery, and so you can focus on the ROI metrics. Then also focus on the model quality over infrastructure and starts with audio for quick experimentation. For DevOps, implements automating testing for models, use infrastructure as code for ML resources, which is very important here. Yes, for people that are into DevOps, you know that one thing we don't like or one thing we don't do is we doing things manually, right? Maybe going um, on AWS console, then start clicking here and there. That's bad. So you must never do that. You don't do that, right? So you have to ensure that whatever you're building, you use what we call infrastructure as code to set up whatever infrastructure that are needed for your model. And then you also integrate monitoring and alerting. And then for business, you prioritize reliability and uptime, which is very important. Use serverless inference for cost optimization, and then you monitor model for drift detection, right? Which is very, very important as well. Do we have, I'll move on to the next. Okay. Yeah. So call to action, SageMaker simplified ML from the start. And then their way of doing this, I would have loved us to, I would say like I'm only running out of time. I would have loved us to actually carry this, like um let's do this like practically on a session, but we are not going to do that today. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, so there's the SageMaker Studio, and this is the link. You can go, click on the link, make some research on how to, you know, do some testing on this SageMaker, how you can actually build models, and there are also some YouTube videos that you can also make too of. But I'm certain that one of these days, maybe we'll have another session where we'll now like carry out this. We will do with the traditional method, and also we'll do with the SageMaker and compare both of them. All right. Yes. So I think that's it for me. I don't know if anybody have questions so far.
Wow, that is amazing. I don't know the adjective to use to qualify what you've actually presented, and I believe that every participant that's been with you from the start will be able to gain some insightful knowledge about Amazon SageMaker and how it has been able to help businesses to go from prototype to production. And I, as a person, I've also been able to, get some little things from what you mentioned. You've been able to, share with us the challenges that most businesses actually face when they're trying to deploy their models traditionally, right? So, and you've, explained to us that the best way to go about deploying models is always using a cloud service, and Amazon SageMaker as being a lifesaver in this case, right? And you'll be able to also give us some pain points that traditional deployments has been facing, why they should consider a cloud service, and giving us a lot of the pipeline process of deploying your machine learning model on SageMaker, which has been really insightful and amazing. You didn't stop there. You also mentioned about best practices. and you give us a call to action. And I believe everyone here has been able to gain um, some knowledge from what you've mentioned. I really appreciate that. So we have some questions in the chat, which I'll be calling, reading them out so that you can do justice to them. So first
Okay.
of all, Mr. Sharif, I will very ask that. Okay, I am actually deploying a model at the moment. Are you with me, Mr. Brazak?
Yep.
All right, good. So Mr. Sharif is asking, I'm actually deploying a model at the moment. I would love to know how we can measure or determine which SageMaker instance type is fit for one model or the use case.
That's a very, very good question. Okay. So there's a lot of things that, of course, you want to consider when you are deploying your model, like your throughputs, the compute needs. Um, then it depends on the model and the size as well, like how huge the size of your model is. Um, just thinking the make sure to determine which SageMaker instance type is fit for one model or use case. Hmm. Okay, so one thing I know, like I said earlier, your model size is very important. So if I don't really know your model size, it can be challenging for me to kind of propose the kind of instance you can use, right? Um, so and if you are just maybe just doing something simple, that you can use something like your maybe a GPU accelerators, that kind of instance size can work. Um, then you can scale as time goes on, right? You can scale as time goes on, but first, your model size is one of the things that is important. That I think that's the first thing that you have to consider. Um, then use a simple instance, right? Maybe let's say ML G5, X large, something like that. You can use that to start because you can use the T2 micro. I doubt that will work. Or you can make use of the ML T3 medium because whenever you are dealing with ML, their instance compute, I mean, it consumes a lot of compute resources. So I would say that you can start with the ML T3 medium, right? And also you have to consider the cost. And I think for ML3, you can charge like 0.05 per hour or something. I'm not so sure unless I check. Yes. So I mean, you have to really like think through this before you start. Like look into some of these instances and check their prices so that you won't be charged too much at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So like I said, I'll tell you to consider MLT3 medium, right, for your own test case. So far you are starting small, and then you can then scale later on. Then whenever you want to scale, you can consider ML5, X large, something like that. Yes.
Yes, thank you for that, Mr. Brazak. I believe that answers the question. Mr. Sharif, if you're still on the call, you can just confirm if it answers the question. And I have another question for you, Mr. Abdulrazak. The person says, can you share a practical business use case where SageMaker delivered um, a strong impact? The person says, I will that again. Can you share a practical business use case where SageMaker delivered strong impact? So attendees wants to hear from you, from your experience, to share some business use case, because the topic of today is actually focusing on businesses, right? So kindly share us some use case that's so that the attendee can get an answer to his question. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, that's a very, very good question. Um, in the real world today, I will tell you that SageMaker has been really um, been impactful and also be one of the tools that a lot of businesses are using, like a lot of them. Like if you go into healthcare, right? Because healthcare deals with a lot of data, like a lot of data, and SageMaker has been like a particular like a use case, or should I say a service that they have been using a lot, like the healthcare domain. They use it for analytics. You want to kind of know patient outcomes. When you carry out some data, you want to know how they are faring, and in real time, like how fast you can actually like get some of this information. So healthcare use is a lot. Um, it involves like let me give you an example. Like an organization using Simulcast, they can use to analyze like data sets of patients records, including historical health data. Like you want to know their health data, right? You want to know their lab results, treatment histories, and when you combine the data of this particular patient, you can also use that to kind of predict, patients' uh, transmission risk, what can happen to them next, right? You can use the data that you have to do that. And Signal give us that flexibility to actually do that, right? Um, Yes, yes, yes. So that's it.
Yes, I believe that answers the question. Thank you very much, Mr. Razak. So, for the last question, um, the person is asking,
Okay.
how do businesses balance cost with performance when deploying machine learning at scale? I'll put that again. How do business balance cost, with performance when they deploy machine learning models? So you rightly mentioned that um, to build a model can be compute consuming, right? So
Yeah.
definitely, definitely, is you can just give some best practice that will optimize cost for users. Thank you.
Okay. That's a very good one. So actually, balancing costs and performance, right? When deploying ML at scale, I would say is one of the like like hardest problems that business actually face, because it requires a lot of trade-offs, like kind of model that you want to design, operational processes, um, like infrastructure choices, like what kind of infrastructure do you want to use? Is it cloud? Is it on-premise? So these are the things that you have to start thinking about. So the choice to make when it comes to infrastructure, right? And other things, your compute optimization, right? I think Sharif kind of asked a question earlier. So, the kind of this thing that you want to use, the kind of instance that you want to use, will determine how your models will also perform, right? You know that it requires how it's going to perform, and of course the cost as well. So one thing that we can also do is your model, right? You have to ensure that your model, how efficient your model is, like how efficient it is. Some imagine you have how would I put it now? Let's say you have a model that is very, very huge, and then you don't know that okay, you can write some algorithm to kind of prune it, like to prune this model, or to minimize the size, and then you just use like that. You know that it's going to cost you more. So in a way to manage costs, you can actually like um efficient, make your algorithm efficient. That's what I'm trying to say. Make your algorithm efficient, right? And then that would definitely reduce the cost. It's about making smart models, making your models to be smart, and then make sure that they are less, even though they can be at the end of the day, but just make sure that you kind of way to minimize them. All right. There are other places that you can do, maybe like catching them. There are cases where you You don't have to do, maybe something has been used before. You don't have to like call the APIs again, things like that. And you can cache them, right? So cache them so that whenever a user needs that model, they use it again. So that will also like reduce costs, and then you get the best ML at scale. And one of the things that you also consider is your data strategy, right? Your data. Sometimes you sometimes instead of making use of the full data set or data at large, you can just take a sample. Like some of the things that if you remember COVID period, it's not like they have to test everybody in the whole world. They just take sample of people. So some of these things can be done as well from our data sets. So sometimes there's no need for actually like trying to run ML on all the old data, right? Because when audio data will consume a lot of resources, compute resources, why not just take a sample of data, then run your this thing on them. And in this case now, that means your cost is going to reduce drastically, right? Um, Yes. So the other things that you also consider is, I think personally, what I used to do is what we call monitoring. I don't joke with that. So if you want to know what is going on under the hood, then you need to also ensure that you monitor your stuff, right? You monitor what's going on. You monitor your compute resources. Are they how are they doing? You know, check the model behavior and all of that. Check all these things. Once you check them, and is you are getting an output at the end of the day, like a dashboard, right? So you'll be able to know and track what is going on. So anything that is kind of taking costs, then you'll be able to like, oh, this is what is taking costs. What can we do to improve this, right? And when a business is doing that, trust me, they'll be able to like reduce the costs and also ensure that their models is at scale, right? Yes. So that's why I can answer that question.
All right, thank you very much. I can appreciate you. I can appreciate you now more than this. To be sincere, this has been so much insightful. This I believe that every attendee here, everyone that's joined this event, or this series rather, has been able to benefit one one thing or the other about Amazon SageMaker best practices, optimization practices, and all. And I really appreciate you for joining this session, Mr. Abrazak Naibi. And to that end, I would like to draw the curtain of this session to close. But before we go, I would like our attendees to be informed that the Arthurite Integrated Gen AI event is coming up on Friday at Federal Palace Hotel this Friday. I mean this Friday. That's where we're gonna be having our industry speakers who will be speaking, panel sessions that you don't want to miss, and more about generative AI, right? So I'll be expecting everyone who has joined this call at the event. Is going to be an amazing one, and you don't really want to miss, right? So thank you very much. The details will be shared below. This is the details that has been shared above. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll be expecting you at the Ballroom Federal Palace Hotel on the 22nd of August. And don't forget that another series is tomorrow, where we'll be having Engineer Tohib and Engineer Koha, taking the day three of the webinar series. Good day. Do have a good night rest. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye.